7th Annual Summit in London. I had the great good fortune to be there again this year and to thank you for being on stage. And I'm just wondering, Andrew, as you reflect on that week about great, amazing group of people there and on stage from largely European, and now here you're on this side of the pond with this amazing group of people, and you had we're at the Circular Packaging and Brand Integrity Summit this morning, as you saw some of the conversation. How are you feeling about where we are, what's going on both sides of the Atlantic? Yeah.
Well, firstly, it's fantastic to be here, and thank you for putting this together. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, as you heard earlier on, has been involved in this topic from the outset, really. We're nearly 10 years old, 9 years old at the moment, and we were established by Dame Ellen MacArthur to accelerate the transition to a circular economy, and we do that through the development and promotion of the idea. So in 9 years, this idea has come from virtually nowhere to being pretty much everywhere. Yeah. But we've got, a tremendous amount more to do. I think we've mobilized the idea, and now it's at that inflection point, as you said, that we're really now looking to sort of scale that up.
Do you feel that it's, it seems to have gone from 0 to 60, just to use an automotive, this is miles per hour, yeah. Pretty quickly. Yeah. Does it feel like that for you as well?
Oh, it's been astonishing. The last few years have been really quite remarkable. When we did the first report and took it to the World Economic Forum, we invited 6, I think it was, CEOs to come to a hotel down the road, and somebody from the World Economic Forum, and next year later we had 30, and next year later we had 100, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And I think that it's a combination of things that have allowed that to happen or enabled it to happen. The framing, the way in which we're really talking about an economic construct. We're talking about an idea that actually has a lot of attraction. It inspires people. It's about innovation. It's about creation. It's about opportunity. And we've been amazed to see the extent to which that's pulled people in.
And you almost never, maybe if ever, use the word sustainability.
Yeah, we don't. If you go to our reports, the way that we've framed this topic is really about the economy. And, I think there is many people in the community who are very strong on the sustainability or green or climate agenda. There's a bunch of people in the middle that are fairly neutral, yeah. And there's a group that really just don't buy into it. And what's interesting, when you talk about the economy, it's a topic that everybody buys into. Sure. And this is about a better economy because it has better economic outcomes, better social outcomes, better environmental outcomes. It's about creating wealth rather than just extracting wealth. And it's an economy that makes sense because it can run forward into the long term. Yeah. So, yeah, it's created incredible pull.
And yet, at the same time, you also have done, I think, an incredibly important thing, which is to connect circularity to climate.
Yeah. Well, initially we were focused very much on the materials economy and systems thinking. And we wanted to shift from systems thinking to systems approaches. So how do we actually start to get to redesign of product service systems, and how do we think about new approaches for doing that? So we didn't talk a lot about climate for many years, and we've shown in our reports the connection of fashion, plastics, and food to climate. So, and if you think about it, what we've seen is that plastics is about 15% of the 1.5 degree budget by 2050.
Fashion is 15% of
15%. By 2050, the production of plastics will consume 15% of the 1.5 degree target that we've set.
That's a business as usual.
That's a business as usual. Yeah. Fashion will consume 27%, and food will consume 66%. Mm-hmm. So those 3 segments alone, not counting all of the other ones that are massive, they're really big ones. So those 3 alone consume 100% of the climate budget by 2050. Yeah. So, and not a lot of people really make the direct connection between the circular economy and climate, but in reality, the climate agenda, 50% of that is about renewable energy, roughly. the other 50% is about production and consumption, and it's the wheelhouse of the circular economy. And we've shown through the analysis and many reports that we've done that by moving to circular economy, you can actually have a very dramatic effect on climate issues.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, and I talked a little bit about it in my opening around this idea of systems change.
Yeah.
Now you have a long history in the BCG or McKinsey?
McKinsey, yep.
Yeah, in the consulting world, and you've got a strong technology background. We can talk a little bit more about the role of technology and all this in a minute, but I'm just wondering how you get through that. Again, we all talk about it. I think the lack of understanding of what it means and how you change a system is still a big missing link.
Well, I think if we've come a tremendous way in our understanding of this over the last several years, and the work we did on plastics, the new plastics economy work, was a deliberate intent of ours to get into a challenging topic, to work out how we could approach that from a systems change perspective. And we got into it in 2013, and we looked at plastics as a global material flow. This wasn't an issue in 2013. We couldn't find any data on it. We couldn't find anybody that had an understanding of the global stocks and flows of plastics, you know, the production flows and fate. And we thought that was really interesting, and we wanted to really just pick a case and go deep on it. We did the report that was released in 2016 that cited more plastics in the ocean and fish by 2050, but more importantly, what we did...
That got a little attention.
It did, and it really, you know, 3 years, this topic has come from nowhere in 3 years to be globally mobilized, but importantly in that report, what we did was we actually convened in an unusual way. We said we got the whole value chain represented in the analysis that we did for the report in thinking about the solution space. We talked about solutions that were around system solutions. So how did we connect up the polymers, the packaging, the brands, the cities, the recycling, trying to understand what it would take to create a system that worked. And when we did that, what we found was this was the first time that anybody had taken that approach to that challenge. And we worked with you know, the world's leading companies and organizations, and they'd never had the conversations before. They'd never thought about it in that way. And everybody was actively innovating within their silos, and we coined the term the innovation dilemma in plastics because there are thousands and thousands of vertical innovation initiatives, but very, very few horizontally to say how could we collectively get the system to work. And that was the basis of the global commitment, the vision that we have in the global commitment. I mean, I would encourage you, if you're not part of the Circular Economy Global Commitment, New Plastics Economy, go have a look at it, and because I think this is a really interesting example of an approach for shifting a global material systems flow, and it really is, we think, making a difference.
Yeah, one of the things I'm concerned about in all of that is that if you look at the projected growth of plastics and the number of cracking plants, that's how you turn natural gas into the polymers, and you know, between now and maybe mid-century, it's huge. It's going to double.
Yeah.
And so, you know, changing the system while it's still on this massive upward trajectory is actually, you know, makes I think the challenge even exponentially more challenging.
Yeah, well, I think what was, you know, it's been an amazing journey for us in understanding the nature of the challenge that we're facing. But again, when we did the More Plastics in the Ocean and Fish quote and analysis, since then we've done a lot more. There's a lot more coming in the next 6 months or so that is going to show that we've dramatically underestimated the impact of this material flow. It's way worse than More Plastics in the Ocean and Fish because we've got the intersection of demographics. We've got, by 2050, we'll have roughly 10 billion people on the planet, 3 billion new middle-class consumers. The investment in growth capacity for plastics means that we have a tsunami of plastics coming onto the market and over the horizon. And if we invest $100 billion into infrastructure over the next 20 years, and today we're talking in the $1 billion, $2 billion waste infrastructure in developing markets stopping leakage. If we invest $100 billion, we're still going to have tens of millions of tons of plastics going into the ocean by 2050. So, and what's really interesting about this is that the plastics topic is emblematic of so many other material flows in the economy that we don't even have an understanding yet of the extent of the leakage into the natural environment. We do understand the waste because it's pretty much all wasted within 10 years. It flows, it's extracted, flows out of the system within 10 years in less built environment. So unless we actually start to radically innovate for upstream solutions, we are going to not capture the value of these materials, and we're going to have a significant challenge.
So most of the people here in this room or watching on the live stream are not at the macro level. They're in the middle of the system that needs to change, and that hopefully or perhaps they are working to change. How does that happen? I mean, that's, you know.
How do they participate?
Well, in terms of being able to work at that level while you're transforming this. We talked about it. I use this very crude, you know, was it rebuilding the plane in midair without killing the golden goose? It's horrible mangling of stuff, but that's kind of the goal. Yeah. And so, what advice do you have for this?
Well, firstly, this is an industrial transformation agenda. The only way that this will be addressed is by a systems approach by companies within their own supply chains, value chains, and across sectors. And it needs to be led by industry. And we need policy and governmental support to enable that. We need harmonisation of municipality actions. But this is happening, and we're starting to see a lot of bright spots, and we've talked about that. And I think that the role of people, you know, we need to give the public agency in this transformation. And there's many things that people can do and in their daily life in terms of choices. But we need to make systems so easy for people that the choices that they make are, it's easier to participate in a circular economy than it is in a linear economy.
Why is that?
Well, it has to be because we have to create. If you stand in your kitchen today in the UK, for example, I mean, I stand there with I have no clue what to do with these products. You know, I have to tear them apart. I have to wash them. Work out which bin. It's really hard. There's 32 boroughs, 22 different municipal systems. We need to harmonise the systems and converge those. We need to make it really easy for people to participate in, so it works for everybody, not just the people who are really actively making choices. Yeah. And this will happen while the airplane's flying, and we're seeing companies now. We talked this morning about this notion of partial solutions. I mean, this is a big change, and there's lots of challenges, but there are lots of bright spots, and it's happening, and we just need to amplify those. We need to help the public to get behind the companies that are leading on this, and we need to get them to encourage more companies to go that way, and to help get the governmental city systems to harmonise and get it to work. Yeah,
I want to get to some questions in just a minute, but before that, one part of this, and our good friend Bill McDonough is here, and we'll talk a little bit more about this topic I'm about to bring up. But this healthy, the part of the system where they're, what you're circulating, and it obviously matters. Yeah. And how much has the healthy materials piece been part of the conversation that you're having?
Yeah, it's very much a part of the conversation we're having with all of the constituencies that we're working with. We work with hundreds of organisations. The design part of this topic is absolutely front and centre. We talk about the design of a system that's regenerative and restorative. So designers, and we're working with a number of the world's leading design organisations, and we actually had a conversation. I had a conversation with Tim Brown at IDEO about 5 years ago, and we were talking about this, and we were trying to work out who are these designers, how many of them are there, and it was interesting because neither of us really knew. So we went away and we spent a year or so working out that there's actually 160 million designers on the planet.
Wow.
These are the people who shape the physical world around us. They make the material choices.
But do they get the healthy part of this, or
most of these 160 don't get it at all at the moment because they're designing for functionality, price, novelty, linear economy economics. Yeah. So there's a bigger agenda here in terms of helping designers actually understand the notion of design of products and materials that sit within a system. And then there's how do we give them the tools and the software and the mechanism, the references to be able to make the correct material choices, to understand healthy materials, help to understand how do you design products so that you can disassemble them, make what types of combinations, all of those things.
Yeah, it's critically
So
important to get
just, I mean, one of the things, we're after 20 million of those designers. We've now launched a campaign. By 2025, we want to reach 80 million of those designers with the idea, and we want to have 20 million of them engaged in designing products with circular principles, with the tools all in place over the next 5 years.
That's great. Great. Let's get questions.
Yeah, the comments that you've made around systems change versus sustainability and making this an economic issue are really resonating on the Twitter feed, just FYI. And you were just talking about one of the stakeholders that needs to be engaged in this conversation, right? The designers. What among the companies that have been successful, which ones, what stakeholders are involved in the discussion aside from designers?
Well, I think the ones that are successful are actually permeating this idea into the fabric of all aspects of the organization. It's not just designers, it's finance, it's marketing, it's across the board. And, you know, designers are, when you think about a designer these days, it's not just the person who's making the product design choices, but it's the entire business model, it's the way it's promoted. So there are many people involved in that.
It's the relationship with the customer.
Yeah, and that's, so it's a bigger topic actually, but the companies that are doing it well are spending a lot of effort in learning tools, in communicating, in bringing the organization along. And what they're finding is that this is a topic that is massively inspiring for their employees, and particularly companies that are competing for young talent. These people want to, you know, they have a yearning for solutions and to be part of solutions, and those companies are seeing this as much about their ability to attract talent as it is.
Another question?
Something else that's popping up a lot is this idea of the connection between these resources and the climate crisis. And one of the questions is about how a brand can square the pressure to continue to grow revenue with the imperative to embrace these circular principles.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're seeing, again, companies, businesses really thinking about their business models in terms of how do they actually meet customers' needs in ways that are either able to servicize, make services, to shift to different type of ownership models, or to create product service systems that actually engage with their customer in a way that keeps those products and services in flow. So, you know, can you create subscription models whereby you get the product back and you can either remanufacture it or reuse it or repolymerize it or whatever? Yeah. So business models are a very big part of this.
Yeah. So in the minute or so that we've got left, what's the story you hope to be, or the conversation you want to have about this when we come back, not at Circularity 20, but maybe Circularity 21, a couple of years from now?
Yep.
What's the conversation going to be like?
Well, I mean, first off, this morning's session on brand and packaging was, for me, was really inspiring because there was a tremendous energy in the room and a real recognition that this is a brand, this is a massive brand opportunity. So my hope would be that in 2 years' time, this has become a pervasive conversation, particularly in North America, which will drive so much of this innovation. But we'll also see the finance community actually recognizing and rewarding those companies. We'll see a very substantial social orientation towards the companies that are leading this. We'll start to see metrics and measures that enable more transparency. So all of those things I think will be playing in. And I think that, you know, the education systems, learning systems, designers, we will have, you know, this room doubled and tripled and quadrupled with these communities all working on this opportunity space.
Well, look forward to that. And I can't thank you enough on behalf of this community, to you and Ellen and the 130 or so of your EMF colleagues for in many respects, getting us here, helping to bring this to light, and with others as well, many of whom are in the room, and we'll hear from some later, but with really bringing this to the point of making it not just a business opportunity, but so much of a business and societal imperative. So thank you for that. Please join me in thanking Andrew Morley.
Thank you. Thanks. That's great.